little mouse taking over this old house, waiting for my chance to shine. I am gonna make you mine. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super greed. Spend a lot of extra time waiting for the acolyte. I am gonna catch that fool. You will think I'm really cool. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super greed. Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you. Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you, catch you, catch you. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super greed. Oh.
Two.
You're a trap, don't seem to mind it. You attract me, I'm a mouse, you're a cat. I don't seem to mind it. Soft and furry, oh, and just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Just when you think you're safe, snap. I come back. You don't seem to mind it, but I'm a fool. Broke my back. You don't seem to mind it, 'cause you're so cool. And just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. And just when you think you're safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. Just when I think I'm safe, oh. Turns out I'm never safe. Oh, just when you think you're safe, oh. It turns out I'm never safe. Turns out I'm never safe.
Hello, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. Right off the bat, I want everyone to take a look down and have a good laugh at my expense. I will confirm the infamous nature of me being horrible with dates and calendars. Now, usually I say the wrong day of the week with the wrong date, but now I'm just making up new days of the week. So I thought before I correct that, I'll just have a quick little laugh at January 32. That doesn't seem correct at all. Whoa, watch out. All right, there we go. So I'll correct that. It is January 31, 2020. I'm pretty sure that's what day it is today. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are watching in the world. Hello, everybody. Geekoid, Daniel, Feng, Arctic, Brian, Michelle, hello, good to see you. Ben, well, today it was going to be Jacob, but actually he had a few things to wrap up in the office, and he didn't really have, he couldn't think of an art piece that would have been good and compelling to do a live painting today. And finally, we also have a little bit of a company meeting going on a little later today at 3 o'clock, so it would, he thought it'd be best that he was in the office today, and he normally streams from home when he does his art stream. So you have me today instead, and actually that worked out for the best because this week we've been putting together a whole lot of design changes to the SuperBree Plus factory, and we're looking to get hunter feedback on kind of what we came up with. We were asking a few questions last week. As well as last year, we put together actually a whole document of player feedback of like, okay, how was the factory received? What were some player suggestions? What were some things players wanted to see a little bit differently or done a little differently? And so over the probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been kind of going through that document and narrowing it down and trying to create a few design changes for the SuperBree Plus factory, which we used to celebrate the birthday, or we're looking to repeat anyway. So let me see if I can make myself small here. Arctic is asking, will the 10th B-Day time mice come back? Yes, all those birthday event mice will come back, and with the SuperBree Plus factory, those mice are in, if I recall correctly, the pumping room. I think if you visit the pumping room, you can encounter the various time-themed mice from the 10th birthday. So as I said, during the event last year, as well as Feedback Friday last week, we collected a ton of feedback, and we've been putting together some design change proposals of how we want to go about changing the SuperBree Plus factory this year, and we're looking to start full-scale production of that next week, actually. So I thought, seeing as it was going to be me instead of Jacob, that time it actually worked out to get some final player feedback on what we've put together. So there's kind of 3 major areas that we're looking to change up based on what players have told us from last year. The first one is an unbalanced monetization structure, or basically the price point of Coggy Colby didn't really make much sense. A lot of players pointed out that, hey, if I purchased it $10 worth of Coggy Colby, and then I go through the factory, and I might have some fun going through the factory, but the end kind of reward would be I'd get back maybe $5, $6 worth of SuperBree, and then kind of scratching their heads like, well, would have been better off just to buy the SuperBree to begin with. So it was just kind of the reward structure need a little tweaking there. What we came up with to address this is to make the crate of SuperBree Plus that you get for pumping. Hey, Dwayne. I believe he's in the projector room. Yeah, he double booked, but he moved over there. So the first thing that we are doing to kind of address that is just in general make the SuperBree Plus crate that you get at the end of the track more rewarding in general. Right from day one, it's going to contain SuperBree. There'll be no more, it starts as part Bree, part SuperBree, and you slowly increase the amount of SuperBree. It'll just be SuperBree from the get-go. The Magic Essence as well, just going to make that into SuperBree, so that's just the SuperBree in the crate. Increase the quantity of SuperBree in the crate as well. And finally increase the effect that the mixing room has on the crate. So I mean that's a long-winded way of saying just more SuperBree at the end of the pumping track or pumping process. Another change that we were considering here, or are considering to address that, is make the bonus that you get from factory repair charms a little more meaningful by also having them increase the speed in which you pump. So it'll kind of help give those items a little more value to speed up the progress of how quickly you can finish pumping and claim the crate of SuperBree. As well as reduce the cost of factory repair charms. It might be a little bit expensive for what they provided. And last but not least is have the break room add additional kinds of bonus cheese to the crate. And kind of the narrative we were exploring with there is it's like you're stealing the mice in the factory, you're stealing their lunch that they're keeping in the break room. And so of course for lunch they'd have a few pieces of cheese in their brown bag there. So it would be primarily other types of premium cheese. Think things like glowing Gruyere, moon cheese, Mackie cheese, gauntlet string cheese, but as well as a small quantity of just kind of all the other cheese in the game as well. So it adds a little bit more of a mystery excitement when you get to the end of the crate to see what you're going to get. Make things a little less predictable and let us make it a little bit more rewarding without it all being Super Brie at the same time. Destin says queso pump charm to work with factory pumps. That is a very strong thematic fit, actually. That's an interesting suggestion. Brian says upgradable party charms to ultimate. That was a suggestion last week during Feedback Friday, and actually I think we're looking into that as well. I think I'll get to that in a minute as well, if that's another problem we're looking to address. Lewis says, I thought it ended on January 28. I'm not sure if you're referring to Lunar New Year. That ended on, was it Tuesday? If you're asking me for dates and times, it was January 28. What day of the week was that? That would have been 3 days ago. That would have been Tuesday, yes. NDY says, guess you saw how many hunters left the area early. Actually, I don't recall. That's something we didn't write down, but we definitely had lots of feedback as well. Echoes, is Coggy Colby returning? Yes. Chia says, I remember the marketplace for factory repair charm plummeted so dramatically toward the end of the event last year. That might be a good transition actually into sort of the second big piece of feedback we got last year that we're looking to address, is that there were just, in general, too many event cheese and charms. And so that might have been some of it being a function of how useful they were, but also just the supply of them. There were quite a few hunters who were obtaining them even faster than they could use them. And that led to a lot of requests to be able to convert them into something more useful or interesting because they were just swimming in all this Coggy Colby and factory charms. So again, we kind of sat down, we looked over the feedback, and to address that problem, we are proposing to reduce how often they appear as the gift of the day, maybe try to add something else there that'd be a little bit more interesting. And that would also reduce how you how quickly you passively start collecting it. And I think that contributes to obtaining it faster than you're using it, because you are getting some while you are using it, versus anytime you want to obtain it, you have to stop using it to obtain it, if that makes sense. It makes it more of an active decision that you want to accumulate this resource rather than just constantly trickling in on you even when you're trying to get rid of it, but just kind of keep stacking up. The repurposed, or the way we're going to repurpose the break room as well, that'll help with that issue as well, because it will mean less Coggy Colby. That said, we'd increase the base drop rate of Coggy Colby as well, because that was something that was kept in mind, that hey, the break room was going to add more Coggy Colby, and so the base drop rate of that cheese was a little bit lower because of that. And it also made the pacing felt a little bit weird, where at the beginning it felt really hard to get, almost frustrating to acquire Coggy Colby, but then at the end it's like, whoa, this is like a complete 180. I'm just swimming in it. I can't get rid of it fast enough. So we're just going to kind of smooth that out. And I think it'll be a more interesting use of the break room to provide more reward in the crate. And that's nice too. Then all the rooms, what they do is they help the crate part. They help you increase the reward that's in the crate and how quickly you get there. Happy Cat said, for many players, the rate of SB generation from the factory just couldn't match actually farming gold in other areas. Yeah, that's another kind of issue we're looking at, is just making that more rewarding and also adding some more variety. If we add more types of cheese that the factory is producing, that should also help as well, in that there would be a few untradeable items as well. So that'll provide some reward while staying within the theme of a cheese factory. Yo says, fix rib drop rates, please, please, please. Well, this is meant to be a rare and valuable item. And in that regard, you every time you go on a hunt, you get a little bit of gold. You're slowly accumulating a fraction of a rib. K&M says, a new use for sprinkles just because they were a donate item. That has happened in the past. I mean, if you're sitting on an absolute massive quantity of it that you purchased, we could look into helping you convert that into something else. But it is kind of the caveat of events, is that there's no guarantee that the supplies we use one year will make a return the following year. Bintang says, instead of SB, I need more ancient string cheese or maybe magical string cheese. You can smash your Super Brie into magic essence, and if you have some living garden essences, you can create some of the string cheese as well. And Timothy also suggests, of course, you could also sell your Super Brie on the marketplace for gold and then buy the item that you're looking for. Brian says, I have too much cheese and charms, said nobody ever. No, actually, that was feedback that we got last year. I think it, kind of reading between the lines, I don't think it's so much like, hey, I have too much of this. It's that I wish I could do more with it, right? And that kind of puts somebody in an uninteresting spot, where you feel like, hey, I wish I could do something more interesting with all the stuff that I'm accumulating. And so I think that needs a little bit of fine tuning to make that a little bit more meaningful. Timothy says, stretch goals this year. Nothing in particular, but I'm hoping that by making just the crate more rewarding in general and making it include things beyond Super Brie, that kind of helps add some stretch goals of just accumulating. But that is kind of as well the overall goal of the birthday event as well, is to create a time of the year that we can give out Super Brie during an event, and by putting in a little bit of time during the event, you can earn some free Super Brie, as well as creating just kind of a relax, a little bit more of a chill event, if you will. And so the kind of stretch goals, they increase the sort of pressure factor on that. I think that's not a good fit for the overall kind of theme and emotion we're trying to create with the Super Brie Plus Factory. And so with that in mind, it is just kind of do a good opportunity to get a little bit of free Super Brie. But we don't want to make it about too many over-the-top limited edition rewards or anything super hard to get, especially as you approach kind of the end of event season. There might be a little bit of fatigue in terms of kind of doing things within a time constraint. Always creates a little bit of stress, or can if it's not done right. Ben says the point gold wisdom is unbalanced between the 4 rooms. Room with the 10th birthday mice is like 100-fold better. We are adjusting, which I didn't have that in my notes here, but a few of the mice as well. So had their power values adjusted a little bit as well. There's quite a big disparity, and so some of the rewards might have to also be tweaked. Okay, it says, can you make a countdown for the event time? We try our best to make sure in the news post of announcing an event that we put the date that it is closing. But for sure, yeah, it'd be kind of neat to make that a little more visible somewhere, maybe on an event-by-event basis if there's a specific interface that's devoted to it. Put some charms which we could use on general charms or maybe super snowball level charms. And it's a good segue into kind of the third piece of major feedback that we got on the Super Brie Plus Factory was that there's no compelling use for excess factory charms. So once you'd fully upgraded the factory, there just really wasn't any good way to put your extra parts to use, and there wasn't any kind of good cash out reward items either. So to address that, what we have brainstormed here using player feedback is adding party charms as a cash out item. So actually this came up last Feedback Friday as well as a great suggestion from the chat, and give the party charms their super extreme ultimate variants. I forget who suggested actually that kind of the theme of the party got out of control and the party escalated. That kind of made me smile. And so then they could be a more worthwhile cash out item for your excess factory parts by having more powerful kind of party charms and a little time of the year to amass those. As well as factory repair charms. They can now be sold for excess parts because they provide a pump bonus. So if they're going to speed up how quickly you can get to the Super Brie crate, now you can use your excess parts, get some factory repair charms, arm those, and you get to claim the crate a little bit quicker. And obviously their cost is going to have to be a little bit higher looking, because the other effect that the repair charms were keeping is it increases the rate at which you collect the factory parts as well. So with that in mind, their use is twofold. They give you more parts and they speed up your pumping. And so if you're spending parts to get something that helps you get more parts, the cost might be a little bit higher in terms of the quantity of parts that you have to put in, but we have yet to crunch the numbers on that anyway. Super Ultimate Party Charm with Birthday Trap Luck bonuses. Yeah, I think that would be the idea as well. So similar to the Snowball and the Spooky Charms, they would get a bonus when you pair them with any birthday-themed trap. Dual Dude says, sorry, I'm quite new, but does limited edition traps from past events come back? No, if you see limited edition as anything labeled there, it means once it's gone, it's gone. Dan asks, can I have email to submit bugs? So if you play from the browser version of the game, you can go to the top right corner of the game and click the help button then click Contact Us. Then for reasons, select Bug. Then you can put in a summary and details. You can even attach an image. That's very helpful as well. Something that's helpful as well is saying but outlining what you expected to happen, what actually happened, and then steps to recreate that problem. That gives us a great head start and kind of speeds up how quickly we can fix up a problem. And just kind of, it's nice to see like, here's what I expected to happen and here's what actually happened. That step one just helps us determine, okay, is it functionally broken or is there like a perception issue? It's like, oh, okay, well, it's working as intended, but it's confusing because you think it's going to do something it isn't doing. And once we establish, okay, no, that'll either be delegated to like a developer to fix if it's functionally broken, or more like a UI person to fix, okay, or a game design person to fix, okay, something's confusing. And then from there, especially if it's functionally broken, like here's exactly what I did, and every time I do these 3 steps, that problem comes up. That just saves us from digging up or even having to reply and be like, okay, hold on, what did you do to get that to happen? We can't get that to happen on our end. And that's always the first step in bug fixing, is reproducing the problem yourself and seeing how it goes. Actually, I didn't finish my thought either. If you are playing from the mobile version of the game, then in the pop-up menu, you can click the help button and you can contact us that way. That said, I believe if you are using iOS, currently you cannot attach an image to that ticket, but we are working on a fix for that. So the irony of the bug report system has a bug. How do you report that? But Dev Param has been diligently working on upgrading sort of the technical infrastructure, the framework that runs the mobile app, and that has fixed the attach an image problem. We're testing that out. I was chatting with them in the sort of test support system there, back and forth sending, he sent a selfie, I think. So you can definitely attach an image again. Bintang says, make party charms have a chance to pop confetti just for the fun of it. Yeah, that's kind of a fun idea. That confetti's everywhere. It's useless, but that's its point. Confetti pop should be an actual animation in game. That would be kind of neat. Kind of makes me think of in Queso Geyser. I think Andrew added a few little kind of flakes when the eruption occurs. You see a couple little flakes of cork falling from the sky. Brian says, I thought ultimate charm when I read pop. Shimo says, I don't know if this happens to some people, but on Safari, sometimes when I go to Travel tab, I can't click on anything else. Let's give it a go. Like I said, if you're having an issue at all, though, it's best to use the contact button and submit a screenshot, a few details. That kind of helps make sure the right person that gets brought to the right person's attention. Yeah, seems okay for me in Safari anyway. Although I haven't updated my OS. To be fair, I don't use Safari too much. Usually just to test stuff. And on Safari version 13.0.4. Few bug mice. Yeah, we can blame the glitch pause for those. Jared says, nice tie, Dave. It's a bit of a joke. I don't know how, but there is a jingle in the office that Giorgio and Franco sing about me wearing a tie. So every once in a while I put one on so that we can relive that jingle and joke about it. Tan says, yes, when I open more than one gift box in game and I scroll, it is empty. I need to farm gifts and I can show the bug. That is, I think that's actually an active bug report. So if you're talking about the mobile app, when you open up a gift box or something that we call like a convertible or something, you open it up and it gives you a bunch of stuff. Sometimes when you get to the bottom, there's a bunch of blank space. You can keep scrolling. And basically there was like a scroller, and inside of it there was another scroller, and they're both scrolling. So we have since removed the defunct scroller or redundant scroller, but I don't think that's live yet. Dustin says, I was 3 hunts away from Absolute Acolyte with double candles when the previous event ended very sad. Yeah, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles a little bit. I was getting nervous toward the end of an event if I'm trying to do one more run or something. I was like, am I going to make it or should I just hold off? I don't know. And I will screen record and send. That's always helpful. Will Valentine's Day have a Cupid trap? I don't think we are planning any traps as part of the Valentine's mini event. It is a little bit low key to kind of make sure we have lots of time to work on other areas and other things outside of events, as well as maintenance kind of I don't know if it's exactly a catch-22, but a phenomenon as you maintain any sort of code base over time. And as MouseHunt is about to celebrate its 12th birthday, an interesting effect happens. So you keep adding more features or adding more content, adding basically more stuff. But everything you add means that that needs to also be maintained. And so you start to reach this moment where, okay, the resources you have to work on your project, you start to have to do more maintenance than you have time to continue to add the new things and the improvements over time as well. And so the only solution to that is either to slow down the features, increase your resources, or get creative about it, I guess, are some options. But that's definitely one thing, kind of, even the events, repeating them, they kind of take quite a bit of time just to organize, put back together. And so we're slowly trying to streamline that the best we can to make sure the resources we have to work on the game, we can do it as efficiently as we can. But with that in mind, we didn't want to spend several weeks on putting together an elaborate Valentine's event, but we did want to make sure the event mice are available, and just kind of trying to choose where to prioritize what to work on. Definitely need some more high-level areas in the game as well, so that's been our focus in the short term. Bintang says, why parental type mice discontinued? Well, it was just kind of a one-off gag 10 years ago now, I guess, for the second birthday to catch the Terrible Twos mouse. And at this point, it's just a piece of MouseHunt trivia. Andre asks, why are Eclipse mice catches not included in the scoreboard? You may need to go and capture it one more time, depending on if it has kind of an asterisk next to it on the scoreboard. Unfortunately, this was last year, we lost some scoreboard data, and then we went to restore from a backup. We noticed our backups were corrupted, which has since enforced the importance of also practicing the restoration of your backups. So let me see. Absolute Acolyte. Hey, Giorgio. What did you say?
Made myself an espresso.
In the big, they got a nice comparison. You can always put one mug in the other mug.
Hold on, I'm just here to.
For your normal mornings.
I gotta frame it
Oh,
nicely.
right, yeah.
I see the camera.
Where am I?
Hey everybody, just here having my cup of MouseHunt coffee. Anyway, everything's natural. I'm just gonna have another sip of the same coffee. And wait a minute, that's way bigger than before.
Can't really notice.
Yes, you can.
Well, when you put this in perspective, side by side.
So this is this is standard mug. What is that? 8 ounces, something like that. Would you say 8?
Yeah, 8 to 12. I'd say.
Standard coffee
yes.
mug. Here's a 20-ounce one, but it's got the same decal on it. Yeah, you can get these right now. The MouseHunt Cafe Press store.
Yeah, my coffee mugs.
I made it. So I made it an espresso. So it's like all this, but the coffee's like right.
Just overkill.
Just hard to kind of
Just to
drink.
make sure
like,
it gets
how far
cold
it
as
gets
quick
cold
as
as quickly
possible.
and also you have to lean really when it's hot. When it was really, really hot, I have to be very careful not to splash my face full of coffee.
Yeah.
You know. I noticed there was only one of these left in the office. We had a bunch of them ordered way back, and I was like, oh, maybe they've broken or disappeared over time. So I was like, oh, just go get another one. And then I saw that they offered these sizes and had to do it. I just love this one. I love the like the White Mouse has been stretched around the mug. I mean, no, we're not violent. I swear. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Anyway, it's like careful there. It's like water the laptop. Give it a little. I want some more ASMR. Anyway, I was just here to show the mug while there was still coffee in my cup to drink it. So on a shorter interruption today. But thank you for entertaining my mug capades.
Oh, here, it's hot. Did you heat up the mug?
I had to because I knew the
Got
size
it.
of it, how much cold surface area there was. It would immediately make the coffee cold, so I would let it get nice and hot in the sink first.
How to preheat your mug.
Had to take the other coffee cup with moldy coffee out of the sink first.
Yeah. Sounds like a good person.
Here.
That for you.
Here's some ASMR. Just gonna clink some cups together now. Some ceramic coffee mugs, sponsored by HitGrab, MouseHunt branded, cafepress.com.
The CPU fan. That's white noise. there's truth to it. I heard you could sharpen a knife with the bottom of a mug sometimes.
Ceramic's hard, yeah.
So just scratching the top of your mug, basically.
All right, I'll leave you to it, Dave. And
That is kind of a satisfying scratching sound. It's like a nice white
Yeah,
noise.
but
You can fall asleep to it almost.
my sink at home is ceramic, and it's nice when I'm watching like a steel pot in there because
Yeah.
the hardness of the ceramic, and I won't like scratch it because it's like I'm harder than you, haha. Because I've heard you can take like spark plugs they're made of ceramic, and if you like break one on the ground and toss the little bits at a window, it can break it. Don't do that, Dave. Cut that out. You cut that out. This isn't live, is it? Is there a 5-second like
No, that's
swear
it.
button? Anyway,
Reliable for
look up different hardnesses of different materials and learn about science today. All while drinking from your MouseHunt branded coffee cup. Sponsored by HitGrab.
Wait a minute.
Wait,
That's
but-
us.
That's us. Okay, bye.
Leave the laptop we can drink to. Yeah, careful there, Daniel says. Yeah, my previous laptop, that was its demise, was coffee going down the keyboard. Ben says, we need more items in the MH Cafe press. I think the whole art team, actually, they got together to brainstorm some new merchandise. That was long overdue. Michelle says, yep, the Ellie stuff should be hidden again now. Yeah, I believe that was, I only kind of caught the, kind of just overheard little bits and pieces. So I think I have as much info as you, but the gist I got was there were some changes to the Hunter profile page, which didn't quite make it through our normal kind of development flow, and so they weren't in the patch notes. Didn't know those were going live when we did the code push, but there was a couple little problems with it where it was showing limited edition items as uncollected, which before it didn't, and that was, I don't think that was intended at all either. So I think, at least Michelle, I believe she just confirmed that that fix is live. Jason asks, will the Great Nani be back this year? They are a bit of a sporty as I think put them somewhere permanently in the game. Just kind of, again, is a little bit overwhelming for us to kind of keep doing more and more events. It was slowly eating up all the time we had to continue doing regular maintenance on the game as well as work on new areas. And so it's kind of slowed down how quickly we can add new things to the game. But we got to kind of find just the right idea of where to tuck them away. I think a popular suggestion is an overhaul of the tournament hall. Maybe come up with kind of a sporty theme there, maybe give away to earn some tournament tokens, but then that kind of snowballs like, okay, well, should that be part of a giant tournament overhaul as well? And so we kind of wait for that just right little small way of pulling it off without it snowballing into a massive release. Dan says, what do you think of the mouse figurines? They're pretty cool. They're the ones I think you're speaking of from the Frozen in Time. I got to meet the creator of those figurines when I visited Singapore a few years ago. Stejan says he's late. Well, welcome, Stejan. Better late than never. Oh, I'm big. I don't like being big. Put me back in the corner. Hey, what's going on here? There we go. Chunk says, factory repair charm price going up. Yeah, perhaps. They will be slightly more useful if we kind of go ahead with the proposed changes to the Super Free Plus factory. That said, at least being sold for kind of cash in the premium shop, their price is going to be lowered as well. So that might kind of help balance out any supply and demand. He says, yes, hidden, but all my numbers are all off. I'll check up after Feedback Friday because I overheard Andrew. Dev Andrew, you may know him from Discord, Cardboard Shark. I think he was looking into that. Binning says, bring back orcas on Valentine, please. Already saves up gold. Yeah, that's actually a good point of kind of confirming all the skins. Kind of check in, but I assume they would all be back. Ben says, thank you, Dave, for making my factory repair charm stock no longer a meme. I take it you had quite a few. But yeah, that was one of, like I said off the top here, kind of the three major pieces of feedback we got that we're looking to address are purchasing Colby and then the amount of Super Brew you got not really making any sense. Ended up with just too many event cheese and charms. Just kind of supply of them was just too much by the end of it. You didn't really have a good use for that much of it. and the no compelling use for excess factory parts. So those are kind of the 3 things we're looking to change up this year. Hopefully we can get just the right feel for it, and then it'll be a fun event that we can look forward to each year. It's kind of our goal. Similar, the Golems have certainly been popular for a couple of years, and Lunar New Year as well. That seems like a very popular format. I think that works really well as something you can look forward to each year. And so if we could kind of find nice events that suit that at least for several years in a row, you can look forward to each one if they each have their own unique identity and reward structure. Golems are a great kind of loot pinata. Halloween, we're trying to make a good time to get gold a little quicker than you normally can. Lunar New Year is just kind of, again, great sort of loot effect or a way to maximize the resources you have, especially if you set yourself up in areas that require a lengthy period before you can encounter a mouse. So the Valor Rift comes to mind. That's great if you're really high up in the tower, you're on that Ultimate Umbra, and you double or triple your drops. That's like you just, not only did you do 2 or 3 of those Ultimate Umbra runs at a time, but it saved you from gathering all the resources just to set up the Umbra. Or like the Warmonger is another example. Kind of, it's almost like you catch 2 or 3 of them per run using your candles. 99 Games Mice could go into Valor somewhere. Yeah, I think that is quite the popular suggestion. Make them sort of competitive themed. I suppose we could just put them in there as mice to encounter. That's probably the lowest scope change, really. Just with no specific gameplay, I guess. Whenever we look to do something, we look to make it as interesting or compelling as we can. And so kind of the thought of just putting them there and attracted with regular cheese without any gameplay maybe isn't something that even pops immediately to mind, but that might be the kind of lowest hanging fruit, or if you will, or the quickest way to kind of solve that problem. Also gives Valor a little bit more of a niche use as well. Or that's just kind of where you can go to collect those mice, work on a King's Crown, and that's about it. Jaron says, I'm in favor of adding sports mice to the tournament hall. Yeah, that definitely is a popular one. Owlweir asks, what time zone does MouseHunt, or do MouseHunt events run on? Well, the game is technically running in UTC, so things like the Gift of the Day changes at midnight UTC. But in terms of like the events of when they start and end, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't know kind of what time zone that would be midnight in, but you can think they start and end roughly about the same time Feedback Friday starts, which is 11 a.m. in Toronto. And that'll also be subject to daylight savings times as well, which is nice about UTC. That kind of doesn't change, although I guess it does change when daylight savings happens where you are, but it's a common complaint programmers have. We hate dealing with time zones, and we hate dealing with daylight savings time. Just creates a bunch of little off by 1 errors, or it'll create little side effects you didn't think of when the clocks change. Like, I didn't account for that. Sejin says, I know this might sound stupid, but could the marketplace history get a load all button? It's a pain to scroll down 1 click at a time. I think that kind of was in the quality of life improvement list when we were overhauling the marketplace. We just kind of ran out of time. It's one of the things that we had to cut for the sake of a deadline. Was it almost a way to download? I don't know why I was qualified with almost a way to, because what the idea was you could download a CSV of all your transactions. And so it was a very kind of power user feature is what we would call that. If somebody really interested in seeing their entire history, they could download a spreadsheet. And then the nice thing is you could do whatever you want with it from there. If you wanted to if you're really into kind of playing the market, buy low, sell high thing, it's almost like a meta game within a game there. You could put it to use that way, or if you just want to say, I wonder, 7 years ago, I remember buying something. What was it? You could find it a lot more easily. Andre says, I wish the marketplace could actually include all my inventory. It would be great to buy or sell excess stuff. I think it would be great if whenever you're viewing an item, there was something you could click, or if it was just automatically in the description or something that shows you the current marketplace price of that item, if it is a tradable item. There are some kind of scaling issues involved in that. It doesn't quite make it as readily accessible, but I think that would be pretty neat. But there's some technical challenges making that happen. Sejun says, I know this was suggested last week, but do you plan to double pump speed while having factory repair charms armed? We are playing with making them pump quicker. I don't know if it'll be double. Right now we are just playing with it, having the charms add plus 10 to each pump, which means you go 20% faster, but not 100% faster. That said, I guess you are going twice as fast before you upgrade the pumping room. But once you're at full speed, you pump, if I recall, 50 liters per hunt? No, it's 40 liters per hunt. And so going 10 more would get you 50, which would be 20% faster. Am I doing math? I think I might be doing math. Probably incorrectly. Happy Cat says, can we have a Rift or Chrome for April, or a Rift or a Chrome? Yeah, the Rift plane there. A Rift has opened within the Rift plane. Wait a minute. Timothy says, non-related idea, could old traps be smashable and turn into skins in the same power type? That is something we are playing around with as well. I feel like that could be a whole different topic of Feedback Friday, because we were a little concerned about it being confusing. But we're playing around with a way to use a trap as a cosmetic override for another trap. So there'd be maybe a really old trap that you got 8 years ago, and the artwork's really cool, but it's not particularly powerful. A way to kind of convert that into a trap skin, or a way, if we can find a way to make it not confusing so you don't forget what you actually have armed. But there's still, some questions around there. But it's good to see there's a little bit of demand for being able to use them as what's the word I'm looking for? Cosmetics. Are golems ever coming back? Asked Tan Andy. I can't say for certain, but I think there's be a positive reception for them to return again in 2020. Espen says, speaking of gift of the day, we got dumpling cheese today. Is it currently stuck on Lunar New Year gifts? Yeah, there's a little bit of rough edges in terms of, because last year we didn't have a sort of shutdown phase where you could claim afterwards. You had to claim your rewards by the time the event ended, and that was it. We did add it so that the interface would stick around if you hadn't claimed your rewards. That's that you couldn't light your candles or anything still. But there's a few rough edges. So the flag is on, which the gift of the day is checking. And so we'll smooth that out. But for the time being, you can get a few extra pieces of dumpling from friends to save for next year, assuming we repeat the event. Tana says, how do you deal with so much coding? Well, with great teamwork and collaboration, we all work together. Tweety Driver says, then just use UTC. I don't have context, but thinking back to what we were speaking about, unfortunately, we use UTC on all like the servers. So from a technical perspective, that makes things a lot easier where, okay, I'm always reading and writing in UTC. That solves a lot of problems. And then kind of on the front end, when you want to display the date to the user, then you convert it from UTC into their time zone. But there's still just kind of inevitably little hiccups come up when the clocks change. There's some gotchas that have to do with time zones. Or even just doing the math of you want to see, okay, how this is 4 hours in your time zone. So then anyway, it goes on. Normally it's a bit of a noodle scratch. You got to spend a few extra minutes thinking about it. Michelle says that has changed. It's flame shards. Okay, maybe that was fixed this morning. Espen says, not that I'm complaining, like hoarding more event cheese in case it comes back. I'm kind of the same way. I was even debating during the Lunar New Year event how long I wanted to actually be using my candles and how long do I want. I'm just going to save some for next year when I had to choose when I wanted to switch. I think right after I got the journal theme, I said, okay, cool. I'm done with the track. I'm saving up for next year. Jack says, any update when global stats on mouse catches will be back up? It is quite the mess. Yeah, I don't know. We had kind of some technical challenges there, and it is going to be quite the project to get it up and going. So it's sitting in the backlog. It's one of those things that it's just hard to kind of find the time and the resources to put that together. But that's the kind of things I find frustrating for sure. Beth says, I wish I knew before I sent anything out. And it says, dark mode for MouseHunt. Unfortunately, I don't see it being too feasible unless we kind of rewrote the entire game. It'd be a little tricky to pull it off and have it look well. I wouldn't rule it out per se, but the scope is a little bit larger where I think we'd prioritize working on content or quality of life improvements before we'd work on a dark mode. Andre says, my point was that all items should be tradable. Well, there's some considerations there. I don't think everything in the game should be tradable, but there's a balance to be had. Oscar says, for April 1st, can we start hunting humans and helping mice? That might be a good joke news post. Aurora-based skin, let's go. Says Stetson. Yeah, by all means. I mean, kind of keep the feedback coming. If it's something you'd like to see, the ability to use traps and bases as cosmetic overrides for basically a way to kind of turn them into a skin. Even looking, if you're kind of the creative type, you want to put together a little proposal of like, this is how maybe this could work, and I don't think players would find it confusing, or you wouldn't forget what you actually have armed. There's also kind of a little bit of the legacy to take care of, as well as if they kind of they're turning into trap skins. What do the existing trap skins? What do those become? How do those work? So there's just some question marks around it, as well. We want to make sure there's lots of enthusiasm before we explore that. But I definitely think a big part of the appeal of the game is the great artwork that the art team puts together. So I think it'd provide tremendous value and fun to be able to celebrate that art a little bit more in more creative ways. Lure says, a printer shop that creates a skin that looks like the trap you print. The Desert Heat base really nuked the Aurora base out of existence, yeah. Until you run out of flame shards anyway, but at the moment there's a plethora of flame shards in the economy, but something tells me that base will slowly drain them out. Yeah, hindsight, I think if it was popular enough, maybe it could have consumed 5 or 10 flame shards every single time, but I think long term one will feel okay. Jack says, also, huge thanks for finally re-releasing the Soggy Fireworks collectible. I've been looking forward to picking it up for 4 years now. Well, yeah, I mean, keep that coming as well. If something kind of slips through the cracks, that is part of a little, not frustration, but it's a challenge as we repeat events, as we have to do this audit to make sure, okay, everything that was in all the old versions of the event, how do we make those available? And as well, how do we fit them in an interesting, compelling way? And kind of each year that goes by, that task gets bigger and bigger and more challenging. It's like it's a larger jigsaw puzzle to get all the pieces to fit together in a way that we're happy with. So it is kind of one of the challenges of maintaining something long term. Chong asks, can we add you on MouseHunt? I add people here and there, but there's a limit on the friends list, so I have to kind of curate it a little bit. Tan says, can we have a 1 month Lunar New Year instead? It's a powerful event, and so I think short and sweet is the best way to go for that event, just to kind of make you pick and choose. Okay, look at your inventory. What resources do you have that you think you'd benefit from candles from? But you just don't have time to do everything. It kind of forces you to choose what's most important to you, just because it is quite a potent ability that lantern gives you. Chong asks, if basic power charm, luck charm, or super variant is givable, the lower rank could make use with some super luck power charm. Yeah, that might apply to some of the other charms that are tradable. I think some of those could be potentially as well. Timothy says, I'd rather have Ron's upgrades like wealth charms. We can upgrade luck and super luck into super extreme. Yeah, that was a great fit. I think that had positive feedback as well as a way to... I think that idea was birthed from seeing there was just too many wealth charms. Like, I can't use all these. I have 5,000 in my inventory. I'm not doing 5,000 hunts with wealth charms. And so you can kind of compress them down into more powerful versions. Now, technically, you get less gold by using the fewer better ones, but you can do it under or in a shorter period of time or a more reasonable time period. Session says, would it be possible to just change the background color in settings? Your camp view is wide. I know the art team, I think background color could work. I remember Maxine suggesting that. I know an idea is floated around to be able to give your traps like a backdrop or make it look like it's sitting where you're hunting. There are some kind of artistic challenges of getting that to work in every single area with every single trap. Just being kind of a 2D art style. It's not, there isn't a graphics engineer rendering the scene to kind of take care of all the shadows and make sure everything works correctly. Lure asks, why is blank queso not in the crafting table section? It's a little bit of a limitation of kind of the system the game runs on of you can only craft with crafting items, but you can't arm crafting items as cheese. So technically the blank queso, because you can hunt with it, it's not technically a crafting item. And so kind of things got a little hairy. Whereas hindsight, if we were to redo everything, I think all the items would just kind of be generic as far as the code is involved, and there might be a flag saying you're allowed to craft with this, or better yet, kind of the recipe book system would kind of go, here's all the items that are in recipes, cool, or you can just open it up. You can combine something with anything else to see if anything happens, but that's kind of a whole different can of worms. Dark Master says, would there ever be a dark mode for MouseHunt web version anytime soon? Well, it's good to see it's a popular suggestion that comes up. I wouldn't rule it out. I just fear that the amount of work it would take to make it happen, we could make use of that time working on content or other quality of life stuff. But definitely, that's kind of how things get bumped up the priority ladder as well. An important part of Feedback Friday is it's an opportunity to kind of for me to get a blast of what there's enthusiasm for, and that kind of goes into my subconscious as we kind of sit down with the team. I get to relay that information to everybody else, and as we go about our decision making process of where do we want to spend our time, what do we want to work on next. April Fools, can we have a Super Brie factory instead of a Super Brie Plus factory? It says Swift there. There says it's also a crafting ingredient. I think there might be something kind of on the crafting table part that explicitly says, okay, give me all the crafting items and bland queso. So it's not kind of the cleanest approach, but it's been a while now, so I'm a little foggy on the details. That's a very interesting suggestion. I don't like to change the functionality of limited edition items after they've been retired, but that's kind of an interesting concept of a base that is more potent depending on what phase you use it. Or that might actually be neat. I don't know how we'd pull it off on the interface side of things. Might get a little hairy, but some sort of item where you can choose how potent you want it to be. So things that come to mind is like the denture base. So that's the teeth smashed into even more toothlets, and you could go, you know, I'm just going to burn one of these many that I have for a small power bonus, or you could just dial it all the way up and start consuming a lot more per hunt. Jack says, any thoughts on repurposing other loot the same way the new base uses flame shards? I don't know how usable my crystal crucibles, for example. Yeah, for sure. I think that's well received by players. And when the right idea comes up, it's something we consider for sure. It's something we've been kind of experimenting with a little bit with some of these limited edition traps. Let them kind of consume something else and see what that. So it's good to see what the feedback is like on that. Session, has there been any update on new areas as well, or is it all event season focused now? We're kind of split up. We're doing a lot of brainstorming as well. We're trying to find a way to fit in kind of a small and a larger release like we did last year, the Queso Geyser. Although Queso Geyser was quite a big release as well with the Valor Rift. But in terms of sort of the amount of time we spent developing each area, Valor Rift definitely took quite a bit longer to put together than Queso Geyser. Actually, I was gonna chat with the team today because we're brainstorming, but we kind of kept hitting some walls for whatever reason. We're having a little bit of a not writer's block, but I don't know, I guess area ideation block. Doesn't roll off the tongue as much, but I was wondering about re-exploring, kind of how we throwing out the idea of overhauling the crystal library and making it a way to augment your gameplay or unlock new abilities in both low and high level areas. And that might be a good fit for a smaller type of release because it wouldn't need as many unique mice and items illustrated for it, and not as much functionality created, while we can also work on something larger. Now it says, can you also compress snowball charms at a loss? I have too much. That might be something to consider going forward if the winter hunt, if you have a lot of small ones and if you could upgrade them up into super, but operating at a loss. So maybe if you actually sat down and hunted with all those snowballs and you'd make 1,000 super snowballs, maybe you can just instantly exchange them and get 200 or something. So it's kind of you're operating at a loss, but it's just there if you really have too many. That said, you can also sell them on the marketplace for other hunters looking to roll up their snowballs into the higher tiers. So you can kind of spread out the work a little bit. Claire says, really, I've only known it to drop basic charms and elf essences. It does have quite a rare chance of dropping Warmonger loot. So sandblasted metal, the desert heater base, that is. I believe it's about 1 in 1,200 or something with some power of 2. Session says, has there been any update on new area? Oh, I've already read that part of the chat. And it's 11:50. I should wrap things up here. Let me skim over the chat here quickly. Chonga says, too early to ask about Floating Island. That's kind of our working title. I don't know if that'll actually what ends up kind of coming out with what ends up being the final result of that. Will there be any updates to older areas this year? We would love to. We would definitely like to overhaul Whisker Woods. It's kind of an area where a lot of new players end up in, and there's no HUD. There's not really as compelling gameplay. And so a lot of new players, when they join the game, that's kind of where they end their mouse hunting careers in Whisker Woods. And we've had great success overhauling Naughty. And just over the years, we've iterated a little bit. And each time we do it, we make it a little bit better by looking at, okay, new players coming into the game, how far do they get? I suppose we've got a little spot that kind of logs every time somebody makes it to a certain checkpoint, and that way we can build a funnel to see, okay, well, they're doing really well, and then a lot of people leave right about there, and then we brainstorm, okay, well, what could be the problem there? What's frustrating? What's confusing? What's unfun about that spot? But Whisker Woods is kind of next up. We had some okay results with the lab and the mausoleum. That said, I think it wasn't quite as good for a first iteration as Nania was. I don't know if it was the disconnect of having to travel maybe led to an issue there, so we might try smoothing out that HUD where when it's time to go to the mausoleum, the HUD really helps you travel a lot better. I'm failing at skimming over the chat and wrapping things up. Instead, I'm rambling on. Yeah, and Claire, your comment about being able to ramp it up and consume more with increased chance. Yeah, that's kind of a neat idea. Hopefully, any plans for non-LE Ultimate Iceberg base? Yeah, kind of that is in the back of our minds as well. It's kind of a neat way to sort of almost do a trial run for some equipment, and then we can find a compelling way to add that permanently to the game years down the road. That worked out well with the hothouse base and the living base. I used the living base. Well, now I'm using the heater base until I'm out of flame shards. Oscar, a D&D themed trap or something, that would be cool. You get a small droid stronger, you go further in the adventure. Metro says, +1 luck every year you have played. That's kind of an interesting little thought, and I don't fear it getting too out of control too fast, because I don't know, as great as the game has been going on, I don't think it'll go for 100 years or anything, and even if it did, I suppose that won't be my problem anymore. Of like, wow, everyone's got +100 luck. Unless I make it to the ripe age of 135. We'll see. Swift says, will there be more uses for RSPG? Yeah, definitely we'd like to do that. It's just kind of the right idea hasn't come around yet. Friedschmidt says, random meta feedback. The game in general does a good job listening to players and keeping the longevity of the game in mind, and you in particular do a great job facilitating this chat. Thanks, Dave. Well, you're welcome. I am glad that you get something out of it, and I know we certainly get a whole lot out of it. Like I said, it's kind of what I like best about Feedback Friday is it gives this kind of blast into my brain, so I can get a sense of the mood and the overall kind of emotion that's going on within the player base, even if it's somebody who's maybe not the type of player who would even show up and kind of join us for Feedback Friday. I feel like it still kind of casts a shadow of a particular emotion, and of course that combined with forums, Facebook groups, the Facebook page, and everywhere else we get to interact with players, I feel like that keeps us more in tune with what players are thinking. Ben says, so what happened to Valor Rift maps? Yeah, it's a bit of a creative roadblock there, so it's kind of chilling out in the backlog for the time being. Ali says, the Labyrinth is killing me. Any chance of making it simpler or easier? I think hindsight, the Minotaur layer is a little too tricky to get to. I think 25 or even 20 of each clue may have been better, but no plans on updating it. If anything, we kind of add more equipment down the road to help you go through it even better. So when Ronza shows up, keep an eye out for like the super lantern charms, that sort of thing. Andre says the marketplace seems to have become a side business for some power users buy low, sell high. Yeah, for sure. I think that happens in other kind of games that have a little bit of an MMO feel. Like I said, it's a meta game within the game. Some people just love to kind of play the market, or they like where they get some fun is, okay, where can I go? What item is really valuable right now, and I have the equipment that I can go try to get that item, and it gives you a goal. And I think kind of in that type of game, that's what it's all about, is about setting a goal and achieving that goal. That's kind of what makes both the journey and the destination fun. And so the marketplace for some players, it provides that. So for things like back years ago, Sandblasted Metal, or more recently the Rib, it's kind of, or Caloringus' Rib, it's the type of goals that those players like setting forth, or it's kind of like the what if, or they would like, okay, the Rib, no, I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go do something else, earn gold, buy that, and do this. But we try to add a good variety, so there's something for every type of player. Andre asks, could the seller ID be shown inside an item for sale to prevent this kind of monopoly and integrity of the market? Well, it's all anonymous, and if anything, that should help. And technically, when you buy items, they come from multiple people. So if you put up an offer to buy 500 simple orbs, you could buy 500 from one person, or one from 500 people, or any kind of combination of either of those. Jaron says, what about a flame shard base that has the same function as a desert heater base, but loot flame shard to consume the effect by a set of upgradable charms? That's an interesting way to like calibrate it without needing another interface. There's a lot of kind of moving parts, but the Quar, as somebody said 47, that reminded me of the trivia. All right, we should move on to trivia and end this as we approach the ripe time of over an hour. Q&A, says Chong. Yep, all right, so today's QAR, which stands for Question and Answer Award, which was coined by Giorgio when he saw my notes, and I saw QAR, and he says, what's the QAR? Today's trivia question is, which birthday event mouse is the only one with a landscape portrait, or illustration might be a better word. I have 2 messages. I'll check my messages while it's going on. Time Thief. Brian is correct. Time Thief is the only birthday mouse that has a landscape illustration. So if you're not familiar with that term, when you take a photograph or when you create an illustration, there's landscape and there's portrait. And so the mouse over here is done in portrait, where it is taller than it is wide, and landscape would be wider than it is tall. Put the reward link in the chat. I will remove Lauren's lovely illustration of the factory repair technician. I'm assuming Lauren. That's got a strong Lauren vibe to me, that mouse. I'd be surprised if it was somebody else illustrated that mouse. And I may as well put it up here. Text. You know, I'll just turn the word Feedback Friday into it. That's easier to do. Zoom. Christopher says, is the new area released this year? I would certainly hope that would be the goal. It would be quite demoralizing to not be able to complete an area to release in the year. That said, nothing's kind of in stone. We haven't started development per se, so until we kind of have that all plotted out, I've sort of planned out my little kind of sprints and the roadmap toward delivery of that area. The release date is completely up in the air. Any chance of a reduced time split dissonant point requirement? You can suggest it, but no plans to, unless there's sort of a over resounding feedback. It is definitely the last. It's the only trap with a point requirement. It's kind of keeping that legacy of that little piece of trivia in MouseHunt history. That said, you know, I don't think I'd be devastated to remove it and make it Grand Duke requirement instead of the billion points. That kind of depends on the future of the Rift equipment going ahead, and if it gets outclassed, then maybe. I thought it was the Reality Restitch at first, but she just has so much hair. Maybe I'll look at the Reality Restitch mouse, actually. I can't recall the illustration. Event mice. The Reality Restitch. Oh, yeah. I'm going to say that's another Lauren illustration. I could be wrong, though. Cheesy Party. I want to say that's Maxine. Vincent, I have no idea. Time Punk, that's a Jacob. It's got that blur effect. He likes doing that blur effect. He's good at it. Factory, yeah. Dance Party. Anyway. That's an internal little trivia, I guess, sometimes we do, is trying to guess which illustrator illustrated which illustration. So the word illustrator a lot. All right, on that note, I gotta head out. Thank you for joining me for this lengthy Feedback Friday at 1 hour and 3 minutes. My throat is a little dry. I wonder why. It's probably from all this speaking. Thanks for joining me, hunters. Thanks for the birthday feedback as well. I'll post a summary on my Facebook page as well as in the tavern section of the forums so we can keep the feedback coming on the birthday event. Like I mentioned, we're looking to start full-scale production of the birthday next week, so definitely kind of let your thoughts be known over the weekend, and that'll kind of play a role as we start actually developing it, coding it, putting together the heads-up display and all that good stuff. Actually, one thing I just noticed I forgot to mention as well was the QA room. We wanted to shift it so instead of starting with Brie and then slowly you get Super Brie, we want to make it more rewarding right from day one. You always get Super Brie. And the QA room, whether we change the theme of it, we're still kind of debating. We'd start turning a percentage of it into empowered Super Brie. And that might also help give the birthday event its own unique identity, being a time of year where empowered Super Brie becomes more available. But anyway, with that footnote, thank you for joining me. Happy hunting. Have a great weekend, evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you happen to be watching this. And I'm pretty sure it'll be Jake up next time, but I said that last weekend. Here I am, so we'll see. No guarantees. But thanks for joining me. Happy hunting. I can never find my goodbye slide in time. There we go. Nope. I can't talk and operate this software. All right. Happy hunting. Bye, everybody.
you, such a beautiful you. You're the master of the mausoleum. Look at me, barely at level 3. I am begging for a piece of gold. All the mice, all the terrible mice that you naturally attract to you. I wait with the trap and the bait, and they ain't biting in 1,000 years. I'm waiting on a mouse today. Anyhow, we'll be just fine. I may not be a hero, babe, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'll lay my trap by yours, and you will be my skull, and I won't care at all because I'm there. Look at you, such a beautiful you. I am caught up in the crazy game. Look at me, barely at level 3. I just know I'll never be the same. All the mice, all the terrible mice. If I had my